What's up? So I got inspired tonight writing a blog post. I'm gonna see if I can't spit this emotion out. It's still in me, even though I wrote the blog post out and wrote the social post. This thought is still in me. There is this thing that has bothered me for almost a decade. This thing about small business owners, and it's the reason why I all but retired from marketing consulting in 2016. It's the reason why I have continued to be frustrated with people that I work with, and it's the large part of the reason why it's actually the main reason why the client relationships that I've had that have not gone well have not gone well. And it's because there's this attitude among business owners that the more work you're doing, the less successful you are. Somehow, for some reason, we've gotten into our heads. I actually think I know what the reason is, but we'll get to that in a second. Somehow we've gotten into our heads that the measure of success in today's age is our ability to work less and make more. You hear it from stage all the time at these marketing conferences. How can we come up with ways to make more money by doing less work? A lot of times people just say, just charge more for your services. If you can charge more, then do it, right? A lot of people will just say, pick a random number and then double it. And that's what you should charge for your services. Even more people are trying to figure out more efficient ways to remove themselves from the inner workings of the business altogether. They call themselves like idea men or idea people. And what they want to do is they have some money from somewhere. They just want to go hire out all of the work for their business. They have an idea, and so they go hire a developer. And then they don't want to do the marketing for it, so they go hire a marketing agency. And then they don't want to do the advertising, so they go hire an advertising agency. And then they don't want to do the supporting of it, so they go and hire a support person for $30 an hour. And then, because all they really want to do is go retire on a beach somewhere and get all the money from this business and then just sort of hoard it to themselves, because they want to live this lavish lifestyle, have the cars and the watches and the nice shirts and all that. The problem with that, and I think it's a core fundamental problem with a lot of small businesses today, and it's the reason why those small businesses will fail over the next 10 years, is that they are afraid of the fundamentally core principle of business. The one principle of business that is unavoidable, and that if you try to avoid it and try to skirt around it and try and get away from having to do it, you lose, and that is work. Business is work, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's like if I'm training for a fight. Training for a fight is strength and conditioning. It is running every day. It is pad rounds with your trainer. It is rounds on the bag. It is sparring. You can't fight. You're not training for a fight if you're not doing all those things. In the same way, in a business, if you're not actually doing the work of your business, you don't have a business. That's not what that is. And it definitely won't last. I think the fact that we are so afraid of working comes back to the measure of success. We all want to be successful, and I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful. But the problem is that we all want to be successful on the terms that we've accepted, which today is working as little as possible and making as much as possible. Like, I can't tell you how many of us wish that we were millionaires, but we're not willing to do the work to become a millionaire. We want to be a millionaire and and we want to work 4 hours a week, and we want to travel 4 months out of the year. That takes so much work, so much effort, so much buildup. To be able to take 4 months off a year means you can't work 4 hours a week. That means you got to work 80 hours a week. But we're afraid of doing that work because we think that we're not successful if we're working that hard. Somehow it's been, and I know this because this is me. This is one of the things that I've struggled with a lot over the last few years, is trying to find a way to leverage and scale myself so that I can make money at scale without having to do work at scale. And so what do? We outsource as much as we can. In service businesses, we try and outsource as much of the repeatable work as we can so that we can go and focus on what we think are higher level strategic items and not have to busy ourselves with like the dirty work, so we call it. And yet, what we miss, what we completely forget, is that that work is the only valuable work. The implementation, the grunt work, the actual doing of the work in the business, that's what's valuable. That's what people are paying for. Excuse me. People are not paying for your expertise. They're paying for what happens. They're paying for what they get. And if all you're trying to do is remove yourself from having to provide what people are paying for, all you've done is create a situation where customers are going to be upset because the work is going to be of lesser quality. But at the end of the day, the quality of the work is not actually the point. Because you can train people. You can have a great system of a great process that you teach your people. You can have a great system that new hires get put into, right? You can figure all that stuff out. The problem is not actually the output of your business. The problem is you as a business owner. Because the minute you phone it in and decide that your only priority is making money and removing yourself from the day-to-day of the business, the very minute you do that, both you and your business become irrelevant, and it spells the end of you. Like, think about it this way. Can you imagine if Muhammad Ali tried to outsource, like, running? Can you imagine if he tried to outsource, like, pad rounds or sparring? Imagine if he tried to get somebody else to come in, like a lower cost resource to come in and do that for him. Do you think you'd even know his name? No, the reason why you know his name is because he worked every second of every day and he never stopped. And it wasn't that the work got easier for him. The work never got easier and it was never less. The only thing that changed for him is his ability to perform. The work didn't get easier, he just got stronger. So he got faster, he got better. That's the shift that you should be looking for. Not how can I do less. It's how can I do more. It's not how can I charge more so that I have to do less. It's how can I charge less so that I can do more so that I can be better. I want to be the best of the best of the best of the best. But I'm never going to get there if I'm always looking for an out. If I'm always looking for some way to not have to do the work. I'm never going to reach my full potential as a marketer, as a consultant, as a person, if all I'm ever looking for is an excuse, a rationalization, or some other way of getting out of doing the hard work, which is the work of the business. I remember I was training for a fight about a year ago, and was wondering to myself if the cardio, if the strength and conditioning part of training would ever get easier. Because in my head I was thinking, oh well, these champions, you know, these professional fighters, this kind of stuff must be easy for them. And then I remember distinctly, I saw a social post, Instagram I believe it was, of a guy named Joe Schilling, who is a world-class kickboxer and Muay Thai fighter. And he was showing, he videoed and he put it on Instagram for the world to see that he is at the top of the top levels of kickboxing in his weight class. Like, people know who he is. And he was vomiting during his training session because it was so intense. The work never gets easier. Even at his level, I mean, throwing up is like that's the pinnacle of difficult training, right? And he was throwing up. So it wasn't that the work he was putting in got any easier, but his ability to perform was getting better. He was getting stronger, which means he could do more. And since then, I've seen countless professional fighters come through the gym and train, and they get just as tired as any of the rest of us do. The difference is what they actually do in the training session. They're able to accomplish so much more, but it's because they've worked and they never stopped working. They never sit back and think, oh, I'm done. I've made it. I can rest now. Let me bring in some underlings to do this work for me. No. They're champions, and they're champions because they never stop working. I think there aren't enough champions in business today. There aren't enough true, really recognized champions, and it's because it's so easy to put up this fake front of success. It's so easy for people to go and rent a Lamborghini and drive around it and put a social post on. I saw a video today, guy was talking about how people will go, they'll jump over the fence at private airports to go take pictures in front of private jets to make it seem like they're more successful than they are. Why not just go do that? Why not just go have a jet? Why post a picture of you in front of a jet? What does that get you? Nothing. Why not just go have the jet? Well, the reason why is because we're so focused on the way that we're perceived by everybody else, because we think that the perception is what gives us the value. And the truth is it's not. What creates value, what gives us value, is what we do. It's the work that we're actually doing. It's what we're actually engaged in. It has nothing to do with the perception or our positioning, to use a term way too often thrown around in marketing circles. It has nothing to do with how you're positioned. It has everything to do with what you actually do. Are you creating value, or are you just leeching off the system? Are you putting value into the marketplace, or are you finding a way to get as much out of the marketplace for as little input as possible? And I'm not saying it's easy. There's a really good reason why so many people have become really focused on doing less and making more. And that's because for the last decade or so, we've been able to get away with that. That's not always going to be the case. And the important thing is, the minute we shy away from the actual work that needs to be done, that's when we lose. Because it's like in fighting. The minute you phone it in, the minute you decide to just take it easy in your training camp, you think that you're unbeatable, you think that, I can't believe we still think this is a real thing, that somehow you can't get beat, that somehow you're untouchable. Time and time and time and time again. This is a tale. There is no other way that this goes in fighting. The champ always gets dethroned by some kid who's hungrier than he is. Even Mike Tyson Mike Tyson was the baddest man on the planet. Baddest man by a wide margin. And even he got beat. And he'll tell you, he says it all the time, you get complacent. You get to that top level and you think, oh, I'm on top. And he was actually on top. It wasn't just a perception thing. It wasn't that he had postured himself and positioned himself as being on top. No, he was on top. He'd shown it. But even he let it slip. He let it slide. He phoned it in. He got beat. Everybody gets beat the minute they choose to phone it in. Retiring is a totally different thing. But the minute you try and keep yourself in the game but not actually do the work, you're done. You're finished. There's no future for you. And the absolute same thing is true in business. If you aren't willing to put the work in, if you aren't willing to work your face off every second of every day, you're done. You're absolutely finished. Because somebody else will. Somebody else is right now. And make no mistake, business is war. Business is a fight. Yeah, there's plenty of business to go around. There's plenty of opportunity to go around. But somebody else wants it more than you do, and they're going to get it. And if you don't put in the work, if you don't put in the time, if you don't work, you're going to miss out. And that's the absolute truth. No ifs, ands, or buts around it. So stop with the hemming and hawing. Stop positioning your way into being the highest paid this or the most famous that or the most sought after this or whatever. Because none of that shit matters. None of that shit matters at all. What matters is what you do now, what you're actually doing. And it comes down to this. Are you putting more value in, or are you just taking value out?